So then the Quran says in verse 221, do not marry polytheistic women until they believe. For a believing slave woman is better than a free polytheist, even though she may look pleasant to you. And do not marry your women to polytheistic men until they believe. For a believing slave man is better than a free polytheist, even though he may look pleasant to you, the polytheist, obviously. They invite you to the fire. They invite you to the fire while God invites you to paradise and forgiveness by his grace. He makes his revelations clear to the people, so perhaps they will be mindful. So it's asking for a lot of things. There's a lot in this verse, and every verse just seems to have a lot, and that's why I don't really want to rush this. Originally I thought I was going to rush through this, but I am definitely not rushing through this. Do not marry polytheistic women. What is a polytheist? Is it somebody who just believes in idols? Wouldn't you say then that is just old talk? Is that just old talk? So a polytheist, the word poly means multiple, and then a theist is a theology. So your theology of belief. So polytheist, two words, poly, multiple, theist, theology. So somebody who believes in a bunch of things. So if you don't have a centralized vision, you believe in a lot of things. It doesn't have to be represented in a statue. That is just a way that we materialize it because we're only seeing things through a material lens. However, is it possible then for somebody to be a believing Christian, a believing Muslim, a believing Jew, somebody of the book, but also be a polytheist? Well, look around, right? I see a lot of people who claim to be part of a religion, but they have competing value hierarchies. It's a competing value structure that is polytheist. So how can you mix monotheism, the belief in one central structured value hierarchy, with multiple different competing value hierarchies that act as God? So if you look at these religions, if you look at the Abrahamic faith, you look at the Christian faith, a little bit different because they have the trio there. A little bit different, but it's the same central idea. This is why, like the Muslims and the Christians, they make me so mad because they tear each other down for no reason. Why would a Christian attack a Muslim for believing in one God? And why would a Muslim attack a Christian for believing in one God? Because the Christian, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but the way I see it is the way the Christians actually believe it is they believe in one God. They just believe that the one God is represented in different figures. Now, I understand the reason why to the Muslims that doesn't make sense, and to me, I like the idea that the Muslims or the Jews have better, which is like one centralized figure that can't be represented in things, because I think that leads you astray for multiple different reasons. But my point is, why would we attack each other when the central goal is so similar? It's so similar. It's follow the book. The book is giving you a structure on how you should live your life. The difference between the Christians and the Muslims is like a 1 or 2% structure difference. Because if the Christians followed Jesus, I bet you their lives would be better. Jesus is really saying the same thing, right? For example, Jesus says the only way to get through God is through me. Actually, let me look it up. Great. So in John 14:16, Jesus says, the only way to God is through me. Why does that make, the way that makes sense to me is, okay, let's just say Jesus did say that. If he was a person at the time that was connected to God, how could you get to God without him? So, for example, right, Jesus was a Jew, and he had the Torah, the Old Testament of the Bible, or you can call it the Torah. And the problem was that people were reading the rules, but they didn't have the spirit. So, according to the Christian text and the Muslim text, Jesus was sent to revive the spirit within the people, so they can follow the ancient text, but they can look at it through the view of the spirit, following Jesus as a central figure to look at. So when Jesus says, for example, I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes to the Father except through me. Okay, what does that mean? According to the Christians, according to the Christian ideology, look to Jesus as an example on how to live your life. Now, the Muslims would argue that some of the verses have been corrupted. Totally empathize with that idea. However, I would argue that you know, 95% of the things between the Christians and the Jews, or the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims, you can agree on. If what I'm thinking is correct, and if the Muslims also have, if you can go to Muslims as kind of like the trilogy, if the Muslims have Adam, if they have Noah, if they have Moses, if they have David, the story of David and Goliath, if they have all these stories, and the Quran is saying that it's there to confirm the Gospels, confirm confirm the Old Testament in some ways, as if the corrections in the Quran, according to the Muslims, the corrections in the Quran are the corrections for that book. So it's set up like this is all true except for the corrections here. Then that means that these religions are 99% similar. However, the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews attack each other for no reason, but they're all part of the same faith. They're all part of the Abrahamic faith. And if so, then isn't it so that Muslims are bringing people closer to at least to Moses, if that's the fine line and you can agree with, or if the Christians, the Christians don't have Muhammad, but they have Jesus, they have Moses, they have David, they have all. So it's really like the difference between the Christians and the Muslims is one guy, and the difference between the Jews and the Christians is one guy. The difference between the Jews and the Muslims is two people. It's two people, and the people, the Jesus and Muhammad, are both pointing you towards this idea of all of these messengers and all of these prophets that are giving you stories on how to live your life. Stand up for corruption. Stand up against corruption. Essentially be a stand up individual in different frames of life. So as a man, I'm sorry I can't speak for the women, but as a man, there's a lot of distractions out here. There's a lot of distractions, a lot of stupid things to do. There's a lot of tyrannical things to do. There's a lot of ways to be a tyrant, and there's a lot of ways to be suppressed as a tyrant. So you will find yourself in this planet. You will find yourself either a tyrant or a slave in so many ways. You'll find yourself either a tyrant or a slave. This is telling you all of these books, the Quran, the Bible, the Old Testament. I mean, from what I read from it, I've only, what am I, 18 pages in the Quran, but obviously I read a lot of philosophy. But it seems like these books are telling you, like, here's your behavioral metric. This is how you should behave. Don't cheat, don't steal, don't kill. Look at this, right? The Old Testament. So the Ten Commandments. I'll look it up. I think what I'm going to do next is my next video I want to make, because obviously I'm going on rants today. It's just fun. My next video I'm going to make, I want to go through the Ten Commandments. And I want to find, at least, because there's people in my messages, in my inbox, they're arguing about religion. But yeah, fine, argue about the fine details, but at least let's figure out something that we can all agree on, whether you're Muslim, Christian, or Jew, something that you can all agree on. And you start with the central focus there, right? Like, for example, when one of the companions of Prophet Muhammad conquered Jerusalem. I was watching this in a lecture. Conquered Jerusalem. He brought the Jews back to Jerusalem. He brought the Jews back. We have to, guys. We have to live in a world where we treat each other like we're all the creation of God, instead of going to the default that we're going to be enemies forever. You can have your beliefs. You have your beliefs, like I can have mine, but why attack each other when there's a system of belief, a hierarchy of belief that is evil and tearing you away from this central focus? I don't understand why you wouldn't, because you either have the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, and then the polytheists from the Abrahamic perspective. Right? The polytheists, though, they're not like, we're looking at it like the Hindus, or like the polytheists, or like the Buddhists, like polytheists. No, like I don't know much about those religions. I haven't explored them yet. But I would say look around. The structures that we have in our society may be way more closer to polytheists that they're talking about in all these books, and tricking you and telling you to attack this religion and that religion, but it's the polytheists all around you. Going back to seeing what you can't see. Why do you see things the way you see them? Okay, let's go through the Ten Commandments next.